I would agree with that. But hopefully, as we move forward, this will give us some things for our strategic plan as we move into next school year.
After 40-some years being involved in education, I long ago determined that teachers are the greatest scroungers ever were.
Yes.
So I would have probably enjoyed being along with you when we went through that building, and I would have taken notes, and I can see the smiles on your face. Isn't it wonderful to find something you could use that somebody discarded? All right, you let me know. But it goes back to the days when we had so few resources, and when you could find a good resource. But anyway, if no one else has any questions, we'll let these folks go home. You got a question, Ray? Go ahead.
So what's your frequency of visit? How often are you in our school system physically?
We try to come, our goal is 2 days a week. We've averaged 1 day a week recently. Just health issues and some other things like that going on.
Do you stagger your visits, or do you both come at the same time? And on an average day, how many teachers are you interacting with between the two of you?
Well, at the very least, we walk around, so we do all the classrooms, how many teachers do we talk to?
Is your answer all of them?
Well,
Sometimes we don't get all of them.
no,
I mean, we either check in physically.
So you kind of try to stop in each classroom?
Well, we don't break it into every classroom, like, we'll take a hallway, okay, we're going this hallway, you that hallway. Between us both, we'd like to get more.
Do you find teachers reaching out to you on days you're not here, asking for your assistance when you plan to be here?
I won't call him Mr. Andretti, Mr. Sampson, well, like I said, he called me today, he's called me at home, he texted me, I mean, I gave him my information, so if I'm not here, he can contact me, and he has yours too, doesn't he? He can contact me, I mean, he makes use of that.
A few do, not a whole lot. That way, I mean, we're always, meeting, there's got my email address or, calling. So, I mean, we try to make ourselves available whenever they need us.
Thank you.
One last question. Do you see a need for you all to be employed in an area of scaffolding between the primary, middle, and high school and bringing those groups together? Do you see a need for that, for the more communication between those different levels? You haven't thought about that. You can answer that question next time you come if you like. Okay. Superintendent Ward, you have anything you want to add? Okay. Thank you so much for coming, and I can tell you I like what I'm hearing, and continue to bring us data to show that we're getting that bang for the buck, okay?
Are you down with the computer?
You can leave it there. You can just, you can leave it there, it's fine.
We just need to return the cord before we leave. If you don't leave it.
That cord goes to my computer, which,
No, that's right, we used it back.
I see what you're trying to do.
We couldn't get to work that way, we ended up,
See how good they are, I'm gonna take my cord.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
It's returned, we don't walk off.
Thank you, guys, we appreciate it.
Superintendent Worrell, you're not gonna make that 60-minute goal. Let's go. Student volunteerism, students from Mrs. Duffield's FFA program. Superintendent Worrell.
I'm gonna turn it over to Miss Duffield because, she's got some people that want to present about some activity that they've been doing, and I don't wanna steal any of their thunder. I'm just gonna call it interesting activities by the FFA program. We'll just leave it at that. Miss Duffield, I'll turn it over to you.
So, first of all, I want to extend my thanks to the board for inviting us here today. There is no other group of students that works harder my group of students. Of course, I might be a little bit biased, but when you see the work and the activities that they do, I'm pretty sure that they don't realize how much work they put in and how much extra time goes into the projects that we do after school. So thank you guys so much. Summers FFA and the ag program would not be what it is without the extra mile that each of you go and put in. So I very much appreciate it. So on your agenda, it is noted that my students have participated in a it's called TRAP, Spay and Neuter program with the Summers County Humane Society. Now let's see if we can get one of them to tell you about that. All right, Greg has been volunteered.
So, we started whenever we started having greenhouse cats in the greenhouse. And eventually we figured that that would get too many and there'd be cats everywhere. So we decided to trap them and send them to get spayed and neutered. Pretty sure we only caught girls. So was there two boys? Two boys and 4 girls. And they were not nice. They were everything except nice. Whenever we caught them, we would bring them into the shop. And we built a little cage in there to contain them until we could take them off. And we put food and water, sawdust, and all that stuff in the cage so they could be comfortable while they waited. And they were still not nice when we got them out. But they did like to bite through welding gloves.
That means get over here safely. So one of the things that we heard often was, oh, I want to take that kitty home, that one's pretty. Well, as Greg said over here, let me remind you, these are feral cats, and while they look innocent, while they're sitting out there at the dumpster, peering out over the edge at you with those pretty little eyes, these cats literally were wild and could technically probably remove your soul with a bat or a paw. So Greg said when these cats were took off, that's another thing we also want to let everyone know. The cats were trapped with their traps. They brought in their own box traps. We set them out with a nice little note. They even monitored the traps later at night and on the weekend when we weren't going to school. I'd get a text message, hey, we got another one, with excitement. We did catch a couple non-cat items. We may have caught somebody's cat from the trailer park. We let that one go. And sorry about that. That was obviously a pet. And so these cats were trapped, spayed, or neutered, brought back to the school. They were allowed to heal per the vet's instructions until we couldn't handle them anymore. And then they were released back on campus. Now, there's a benefit to that. There's no more greenhouse babies. There's not going to be 100 bazillion kittens born on campus anymore. And they're also a good source of rodent control, natural rodent control. So if you see any of our little kitties running around out here with the ear knocked off, they all have names. Everything from Ninja Cat to Festus to, I can't remember.
Mama cat.
Mama Cat. Mama Cat's the one that had all the babies.
Lucy Fur.
And Lucy Fur, can't imagine why we got that name. So if you see them running around, those are little, in conjunction with the Humane Society Project. They paid for the spay and neuter through a grant, by the way, so thankful for that.
So, just to tell you how mean these cats were, I got in there to try and get one out to go take it off. And it happened to just crawl through the bars to another cat And as I was trying to catch that cat, it was climbing the wall. As I was trying to catch that cat, the other cat was attacking me. While the cat that I was trying to catch was also attacking me.
I feel like some really good cat memes and videos could have been made out of that moment. We really missed our opportunity to make a dollar off YouTube or.
My Karen passes out, I had to move the cage like a good 4 feet away from me so it didn't latch on my soul.
One of them decided to play nice with me, and I tried to manhandle it into the cage.
Not really a
No, yeah, it's
She
one of those-
manhandled you.
a gentle handle, but still at the same time
Still.
a firm hold.
And after I got it out, it started to be mean. So, it got away in the shop.
Do you know how many you caught?
We caught
Six.
six.
And any non-cat animals that were captured?
Possibly we plead the fifth,
Just no polecats.
just
or
a
cats.
possum.
Well, whether the cats appreciated it or not, we certainly appreciate what you did.
All right, good job.
Well, we also, while we had the opportunity, wanted to kind of, I don't know, share with you why we look like a hot mess today. So we went to the Angel Farm, right? So we spent the day on the farm doing farming activities, another activity to prevent future babies, we'll just say that. And we had tractor driving right after school. You may have seen us out there practicing tractor driving. And so my students were very concerned that they were going to look maybe not very presentable before the board, because I've always taught them you need to present yourself in a certain kind of way. And my response was, well, you were out farming today. Let's show them what you do best. So that's why we're covered in mud and other materials we'll not discuss quite yet. But anyway, so did you guys enjoy your trip to the farm? Did you learn anything? Okay, we're not going to talk about that either.
Thank you.
The cows like to lay down.
Yeah, and stick their feet where they're not supposed to go.
So appreciate Mr. Angel for donating the learning facility today. It was a good learning experience for them and for me.
Item 7D, Superintendent Warren.
Yeah, I'd like to publicly thank Jason Gore, asked him if he could, use his drone to take some pictures above the middle school gym. That is still property of the Summers County School System, and we wanted to make sure after all the winter weather and rain, to see what that roof looks like. And, there is some places that are still holding water, it still has some issues leaking down the walls, but those pictures are, really good pictures. They look really professional. He took numerous photos for us. So I just wanted to thank him for helping out. That just takes a lot of effort and energy out of it when someone can fly something like that real quick, take some pictures. But if you ever need aerial photos, I'm gonna recommend this guy. He's good. Not only can he drive a bus, but he can drive a drone. So I just want to thank him for helping us out with that. So the only thing I wanted was to make sure we had pictures. Everything looks fine, considering we already know what's going on with that building, so nothing is worse, nothing's better, it's just about the same. So we'll use that information to share with Mr. Kenny Allman if he gets the status that he's looking for nonprofit, for us to gift that to him by July 1. So I wanted to make sure he had those photos if he needed that information.
Item 8, approval of bills. We'll deal with R.T. Rogers first. Mr. Brogan.
While Mr. Brogan's leaving, Jason's done several photo shoots for us with his drone, and he's done a good job on all of those.
I have before you in your packet a bill received from R.T. Rogers. Let the minutes reflect that Mr. Brogan has recused himself. The chair would move that we pay the bill to R.T. Rogers.
I'll second.
seconded by Mr. Angel. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 4 votes in the affirmative. R.T. Rogers' bill may be paid. Mr. Brogan, you may come back. We will now take up the remainder of the bills, and the chair, as always, indicates that I do not vote to pay any bills from McGraw-Hill or James and Law. I have not been able to find any of those on there, so I'm going to assume there are not any this pay period.
I'll make a motion, we pay the remainder of the bills.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Mr. Angel, second by Mr. McBride. This board pay the remainder of the bills as presented to us by the CSBO and Superintendent Worrell. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 5 votes in affirmative, the bills may be paid. Item 9, do we have any transfers or supplements?
No.
We have no old business. That brings us down to item 11, new business. And per our adjustments in the agenda, this is science textbook adoption for the upcoming school year. Let the minutes reflect that I recused myself and I am leaving the room as you all take up the discussion on 6A McGraw-Hill Science and also grade 10 McGraw-Hill Science.
Okay, let the record show that Mr. Duncan has recused himself from this discussion or possible action. Mr. Moore?
You can see on here, the science textbook adoption is for the years 2022 to 2028. We did have a caravan to see all different science textbooks. We had teachers vet and look into all this, and the teachers do vote on what they think is best to teach the science standards in the classroom. So before you are the recommendations from our school teachers for 2022 to 2028.
Okay, nobody's going to know any better than the teachers themselves, exactly.
I'll make a motion that we approve the science textbooks adoption.
A second.
Okay, there's been a motion to accept these in a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Let the record show by 4-0 vote, this has been passed. Mr. Duncan, can come back now.
At this time, we'll take up the approval of the remaining science textbook adoptions. You have those before you in your packet. This is what the committee came up with in recommendations to you, Superintendent Worrell, is that correct?
Yeah, you weren't here, but that's what I discussed to them, and on the top, you can see the years of the adoption.
Okay. The chair would move this board approve the recommendations of the superintendent as per the recommendations of the committees for this science textbook adoption. Seconded by Mr. McBride. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstaining? 5 votes in affirmative, you may purchase the rest of those textbooks. Superintendent Worrell, I will ask you to handle 11B, discussion of possible action to approve contracts for 2 school resource officers.
You should have a 1-page front to back, a memorandum of understanding with the county commission. This was our first year that we've had the school resource officers. So far, I think it's worked really well. There's always growth when you start something new, and we'll work on that with the sheriff's department. And I know Sheriff Ferris, on a side note, before I forget, someone's gonna throw this in there. He asked me the other day if we can do cops versus cats, and that's a basketball game where the cops play basketball against the Bobcats here, so, he said he would recruit me and a few central office people if we're willing to be sore the next day. But on a serious note, with this SR program, the MOU basically is like the one we did this school year, because we felt like it worked out with the county commission. The only little catch to this is I don't know how much it will pay, because every year you have an increase of pay, and since legislation talked about doing an increase in pay for not only cops, but educators and service personnel, we didn't have that solid number just yet, but basically it's per the agreement of state scale, basically is what you're agreeing to pay those cops, and we have that in the budget. We're fine with that. We're using our title money to pay for those two positions, so we're well within our means, and it's worked out really well. If you have any questions, I'll answer them the best I can, but you have a one-pager about the MOU.
We talked about it several months ago that you were working on a grant to continue this in the future. Any further movement on that?
We're still working on that, but we're also looking at our title money, since this is a whole county of title money. We're doing really well with that title money. As long as we stay real tight with that money, as we expand other things that you can use for title, we have to keep in mind, if we like this SRO program, then we'll make that more of a priority to carve out a certain amount of money with that title. And what we do is we put that in our strategic plan, but we always look for grant money, so does the sheriff's department. So that'll be ongoing, but if we do have one, we'll be glad to share that with you. But I've enjoyed working with Sheriff Ferris and our two SRO officers. There's a lot of room to grow, especially if you're a guy that went to learn to be a cop, and our two gentlemen that's in the school. It's kind of like if you watched that movie years ago with Kindergarten Cop, when he says, "You're giving me a headache," and Arnold Schwarzenegger is really big, and these little kindergartners are working him over. It don't matter if you have a gun or not, you have to teach and work with children in a different manner. And both our gentlemen who worked with our students, I feel like they've been real appropriate with the way they work with students, and they actually have been more of a guide on the side, and it's great to see. Just the other day when Mr. Kuhn and I were dropping off some stuff at Jumping Branch, it was great to see a cop outside with the students during PE time, just interacting with kids. And I'm a firm believer that we need to support our officers, because they do protect and serve, and they also protect and serve in a way that keeps people away from our school system. If something would happen, we have guys ready to defend our kids and our staff. So I'm pretty proud to work with our sheriff's department. It's been a great experience.
Any members have any comments or questions regarding this program?
I'd just like to say, I think it's a great program, and I've seen both of them in action, and they do a great job around the kids and with the kids. I hope we continue this from now on.
Chair would entertain a motion regarding item 11B.
I'll make the motion that we approve the contract with these two, school resource officers for 22-23 school year.
I'll say.
Seconded by Mr. Brogan. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 5 votes in affirmative. Program is approved for next school year. This brings us to item 11C, discussion possible action to approve commissioning services for middle school addition, McKinley Architecture and Engineering. Superintendent Ward.
You all have the proposal from this company, and this company, what they deal with is write commissions. For you to understand this is the best way for me to help you guys understand this. If you go to the second bullet, I'll just read it real quick for the general population so they understand what this is about. The purpose of this technical commissioning service is to provide systematic, documented confirmation that the building systems achieve the highest level of functional integrity and reliability and are compliant with the design, intent, and performance requirements of the owner and occupants. So you're like, what does that mean? Well, the air you're breathing right now is used from the HVAC system. So these people have to make sure that the new HVAC system ties in with our current HVAC system, and it works in a way that has an integrity to the air quality of what our students and staff breathe every day. You do recall last year we finished, was about a $4 million project putting a new HVAC system in the school already. So what's gonna be nice is when we put a new one, it should marry or merge well together, and, this company will make sure that that happens. You can see that the quote is for, I gotta turn to the next page. $45,000 for them to do the job. That's well within a reasonable price. And if you ask me, well, how do you know that? This is the school building authority's money. So anytime we use school building authority money, which that's 100% funded by them, it has to go through their people too. So I didn't go to school for this. But what I did go to school for is to get smarter people around me to make sure we spend money in a financially, fiscally responsible way, and to work with people who do this for a business. So when I talked to our engineers in the firm of McKinley and with SBA, everybody said this met the bid process, and they were the lowest bid, and they were also quality. So if you have any questions of this, I'll do the best I can, but this is through the school building authority and with McKinley, the firm. We have to have someone do this. It's like the clerk of the works. That'll be the next thing I present to you. You have to have those two entities when you do additions or new structures.
So,
Go ahead.
clerk of the works, they oversee the day-to-day operations of construction, is that correct?
Yes, they see the whole picture and make sure people come into work, what they're doing, and they write off a little report on what they saw. And if people aren't doing their job, basically they're the hawk that watches over to make sure they're protecting not only taxpayer money, but to protect you as a board, to make sure people aren't fleecing us, if that makes sense.
And so this company is more of a higher level, they're looking more technical aspects of the work versus are people showing up and doing the work?
Yeah, they have nothing to do with that. All they do is they work on HVACs to make sure it connects to this one, and we have good airflow. And what they'll do is it'll take a full year to make sure, once everything's running, to make sure if there's any problems during that year, we got a problem, we need to look at that. And that happened with this new $4 million project. We called the engineers back and we said, it's too hot, it's too humid, what's going on? It's not talking to each other. So what I mean by that is, that's where the programmers and the engineers say, this system is reading this wrong or right, or whatever that comes up on the data panel, we have to make sure that that is correct. Now, when I say we, they're the ones who are going to be responsible for that.
This is something SBA requires that we do, correct?
Yes.
Also, I think it's important to note that they will be looking at systems for fire alarm system, plumbing systems, additionally electric systems, and then the air testing and balancing verification with the HVAC. So they have quite a few things they're doing, and they will be working with, and our clerk of works that we have for the entire project will confer with them and report to us on a regular basis.
Yes.
Correct. I think that's enough said about that. The chair would move that this board approve superintendent's recommendation and acceptance of the lowest bid by this group to perform services for the middle school as required of the SBA for the McKinley Architecture and Engineering. Is there a second? Greg, second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstaining? Let the minutes reflect 5 votes in the affirmative. Commissioning services have been approved. That takes us to the next page, members. On the back, we have discussion possible action to approve the following policies. We made an adjustment. We're going to deal with these separately. And for item Roman numeral 2B-1, board meetings, the chair moves that the superintendent put this policy on board meetings back out for review. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. McBride. Any discussion?
I do have to discuss
Go.
something.
As well.
Well, if you look at this, when I talked to Trey about this, I said, Trey, when I threw out information to the board about possibly going to one board meeting a month, I said what we found out was the board would feel more comfortable to just stick with 2 a month, but not necessarily the second and fourth Thursday. he said you guys don't have to put a statement out there on what days, but if you wanna meet twice a month, then if you look on the first page under additional revisions, the first bullet, he has listed there 1 rather than 2. So what we need to do is change that back to 2. And he also said, did you get any comments when you put this out about going to 1? And I said, no, all 3 policies were out and there weren't any comments. So having said that, hearing what you guys told me, you guys didn't like going to the 1 board meeting a month. I did check with Howard O'Call for the whole state of West Virginia. There's about 1 county out of 55, not including us, we'd be in the other category of 2 meetings a month. This state must like 2 meetings, I have to understand that, and if that's the way it goes and you guys feel comfortable with 2 meetings, then we'll go to 2 meetings. It's just, all I ask is if we get it off of that second Thursday, because that falls in line with professional development law for superintendents to go to meetings with the state superintendent. Other than that, Trey said you don't have to specifically say what 2 dates. You just have to make sure that when you have your board meetings, you let people know at an organizational meeting, and you can say, well, this school year, we'd like to have it on these 2 dates, and you shoot for that, and if it works, then that's fine, because different people have different schedules, and he understands everybody works on that differently in each county, and he said you don't have to specify dates in your policy. He goes, because when you put that in your policy, then that makes you have to stick to that. But if you just say we're gonna meet twice a month, then you can have an organizational meeting before the fiscal year starts, and you can say these 2 dates are the dates we're gonna meet each month this calendar year, if that makes sense. And then you just post it on the website, people will see that.
So when we have that organizational meeting, you have your homework done, you designate it, we have no problem, I don't think we'll look at those
Yeah.
dates. And we want that to be as far as practical, so you can attend professional development with other superintendents.
Yeah.
So, we're not locked into those days.
So we need the policy to say 2 meetings twice, the meetings being held twice per month. 2 days per.
Just two times a month, unless you wanna have a special meeting, all that, and those statutory meetings, that's a given, because you have to follow that, that's the issue.
I would leave it open-ended like that in policy then.
Okay, great, you had a
So
question?
you addressed one of those questions,
Okay.
and that was just the fact that it's still blank on here. So if we put it back out for review, do we want to make it our recommendation, or do we want to have Trey put the wording in here before we put it out for review, so that when it comes back to us, we can move to approve it? Or if we put it out like it is, we get input back, then we discuss it at the next meeting, then we have to.
Now, he said basically, if you wanna make it real simple, you can just go 2 meetings a month, and then at the statutory meeting, you can put, it'll be discussed on how you'd like to do it that fiscal year.
And I
Because
think-
that can change, guys, I mean, that happens a lot.
Yeah, and I think that if we do that at that meeting and we designate days, I think it's still good to have the comment in here that with, dates and times for the month may be changed by the majority voted board.
Right, you can still do that. Trey said though, sometimes we can, when he says we, he says as in boards of education across America, you can pigeonhole yourself because you're trying to help be real specific. But sometimes when you're real specific, it doesn't give you wiggle room, and then you do have to make a majority vote to start moving dates. And what he was saying though is when you put that out at your organizational meeting, you can put that out in all the schools and post it there. You can post it in the calendars you send home to parents, and you can post it on your website. That way you're meeting the spirit and the letter of the law, letting people know what your business is throughout that fiscal year coming up.
So essentially, the language you want to post for review is basically there will be 2 regular meetings per month. And that there will be an organizational meeting that will specify the dates on those
Right.
as per your needs. And,
We'll say our needs, because you guys, we gotta work on that together. Just because I say I like it on a certain day might not work for you guys
But
too.
it may not, but.
Yeah.
However you put that, we've been fine with the Thursdays, but we've never had this issue brought up like you do, and we want to do this so that it works best for all of us, for you specifically.
So when this policy goes back out, Trey will have edited this paragraph when we put it back out.
He's pretty much ready after conversation. I said, I'm gonna go with the spirit of what the board's saying to me, 2 meetings a month. If they tell me tonight, specify a date, I will do that. He says, I advise him to keep it nebulous, because then you have wiggle room. You're still meeting twice a month. As long as you let your county know what your dates are, then that meets the code of West Virginia law.
Because we go by the Open Meetings Act of 1970, and we post an agenda appropriately. And if you have it posted on our website when the meeting's going to be for the year after the organizational, we'll be in good shape. Any other questions? Okay, there is a motion on the floor that, and I'll rephrase it, I move that Roman numeral 2B1 board meetings be put back out for review, subject to the revision in the language that we have discussed here, and Superintendent Worrell will do that. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mrs. Farley. Is there any other discussion? All in favor of putting this policy back out on review, subject to the change in language with the attorney and Superintendent Worrell, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? 5 votes in the affirmative. This board has approved that to be placed out on public review again. This brings us down to item 2B6, public participation in board meetings. Members, you have in your packet that policy. Are there any questions or points that anybody wants to make? This has been on review. Did you get any no comments on it? We put it on review. Any comments or questions or points by any members? I think we've been through this one. Chair would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the following policies of 2-B-6 and 6-B-2.
I'll second.
Did we indicate we were going to take these separately, or we're just
We were just taking.
taking the one? Okay.
Policy 2B.
All right. So we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Brogan, seconded by Mr. Angel, that the remaining 2 policies be approved and added to our policy manual. We'll take up any discussion. Is there any discussion regarding the public comment? None? Okay. Any discussion on public school curriculum? We'll note that the public school curriculum, the language in there appears as per Senate Bill 498. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining. 5 votes in affirmative. Both of these policies have been approved for our policy manual. This brings us down to personnel items. You all will note that we have under item 12, we have resignations, we have employment professional, we have employment substitute service, we have employment summer SOL/STEM and credit recovery program. As per an adjustment made to the agenda, Chair will recuse himself while you take up the item under K1 STEM teacher.
K-1 STEM teacher, Donna Duncan.
I'll make a motion, we approve Donna Duncan for the K-1 STEM teacher for the summer soul STEM and credit recovery program.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second for Donna Duncan for the K-1 STEM teacher. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Let the minutes reflect by 4-0 vote that Tom Duncan has been approved for this position.
This board will now take up the personnel items remaining, including resignation, retirement, employment professional, employment substitute service. Also, 612 credit recovery teacher, assessment coordinator. And you'll see a list on summer soul STEM employment service. All of these items have been published publicly as per the Open Meetings Act 1970 on the agenda. Superintendent Ward, will you have any comments? These are your recommendations. We can proceed, correct?
Yeah, just wanna give kudos to Sandra Ball. What a great school nurse, and, now it's gonna be tough. We're gonna post it, and we're gonna try to find a school nurse to replace her, but, if you've noticed anything about the pandemic, nurses get paid a whole lot more to be in a hospital than they do in a school system. But we're gonna try our darndest to get someone in here. But Sandra Ball did a great job with the school system and was easy to work with. And then we're doing a really good job with our summer program. We actually are filling positions this school year. Last year we had a hard time. This year, we're doing a lot better. So we're pretty excited about summer soul program for our students.
I would like to add to that. I've known Sandra Ball since she was a student at Hinton High School. Always been a quality person and certainly very, very competent and very dedicated. And so we all want to thank her for her many years of service, and she'll be missed. Anything else, anybody else?
Yeah, question, you mentioned 612 credit recovery, we don't have a name, is there someone for that position?
What I have given to me by is Josh Evans.
Okay.
Josh Evans. Any other questions before we proceed on this? Chair would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve the remaining superintendent's recommendation for personnel items.
Is there a second? Motion made by Mr. Angel, seconded by Mr. McBride, that this board approve the remaining personnel items recommended to this board by the superintendent. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? 5 votes in the affirmative. Superintendent Warble, your recommendations have been accepted. That brings us down to item 13, superintendent's report. Superintendent Warble.
Just two things I'd like to tell you guys. On April 25th at 1:30, we will be hosting State Superintendent Birch. Our State Superintendent Clayton Birch will be here, and he wants to see our high school and our CTE classes and Grow Your Own. Since we're doing the Grow Your Own program, he would like to see all the things we have going on here in Summers County. So we're excited to host the State Superintendent of Schools to come to our school system. The only downside I can say is guess where everybody's gonna be next week? The building's empty, so we'll make sure it's all spruced up by Monday when he gets back. So my central office will be here, and we'll make sure we'll keep it cleaned up, because when everybody leaves, you know how it is when you come back from a vacation. You're coming back from vacation, you gotta get back to work, so we're
Where's that
excited.
date again that you'll be here?
Monday the 25th. And he'll be here to see what we're doing with our Grow Your Own program, and then check out the high school and the CTE programs. The other thing that I have is we're applying for a grant. It's called the 21st Century Grant. And what that is an after-school program. When I was a RESA director, we usually ran these grants. So what I liked is, I know a little bit about this. What we're trying to do is get $220,000 for 3 years. That's $220,000 for each of the first 3 years. And then that money drops down the next 2 years. I've been so involved with the details, I cannot remember 4 and 5, but what it is it makes sure that kids can have after-school support with tutoring, counseling, they have activities, and they get a meal that will be prepared for them. So we'd be doing 3 meals a day for these students. This will be Monday through Thursday for elementary, and Monday through Wednesday for junior, senior high school students. The nice thing about it is if you're an athlete, and your practice isn't right after school, you can stay after school, get a meal, get some help with your homework, and then go to practice. So that's the positive. The downside to it is we'll get spread thin again, but we'll do the best we can, because I know Mr. McBride, when you did transportation, you can see right away how this is going to be a good headache. This is the kind of stuff we need to worry about, because this means our kids are getting served, they're getting the extra help, they're getting another meal, and $220,000 to make this happen. It'll take every cent of that. But what I like about this is if you don't apply, you won't get the money. And we have priority points in our county. We're one of the counties that was named a priority, so we automatically, just filling out the paperwork, we got 4 points because I put Summers County Schools. And the reason why we're priority is because every school in this county is a Title I school. So that helps us get some money possibly because we're a priority. That's the negative and the positive if you look at it that way, but that's just how it is when you fill out these grants. We are going to partner with our ESC, that's Educational Service Cooperative, and I know Jackie Farley was part of that when she was here. We'll have to look at who would like to represent to start one of those meetings next school year. And those are good meetings for superintendents and a board member to attend, because you see what your counties and the surrounding area are doing. Used to be divided up into 6, now we're 12. It's the old RESA 1 and 4 are working together, and when you pull your money together as a small county, you get a lot more services, because a Raleigh County and a Fayette County and a Mercer County and Greenbrier don't need us. We need them. Think of a big whale and those fish that swim with that big whale. They're always feeding off of it, and they're getting help because, well, when you're smaller, you have to work with other people to get some help. It's not anything bad. It's just the law of averages with people in a county. So at this point in time, we're going to hopefully have this money. We're going to tell you we got it. So I'm pretty excited about applying for it. It's a headache, but you pay me to make sure we bring in as much money as we can. This will be federally funded money, and it'll be a 5-year grant. And we'll go from there, and I'll be able to answer any questions you guys have tonight. But I'd like to be able to talk to you guys in the future, in the next month or two, to say, we got it. So, and if we don't get the whole thing and get part, we'll go with that.
On behalf of the board, I want to thank you and your transportation department for your proactive sign-seeking bus drivers.
That's gotta be all Brian. I can't take credit.
Okay, all right.
I actually he sent a picture and said, look what I did. So I cannot take credit for
All right.
that. That's a Mr. Boone and the bus driver. I'm not gonna take credit for that. He
All
did
right.
all that. Nope, he did that.
We appreciate your honesty and your humility, Superintendent
Sometimes you
Warble.
just get out of the way.
Yeah, you do. So will you thank Mr. Boone and all of them for that, and everybody in the state, everywhere I travel, they're having the same problem, so, but they're attractive and people see them.
I'm just glad he can spell.
Well, okay, do you have anything else on your superintendent's report?
The only thing is for the next agenda, I just want you guys to be aware of, we still have to have that next meeting that we never did adjourn for the levy rates. So that's next April 19th at 6 o'clock. That meeting will be about 10 minutes, because the next meeting we'll have will be at 6:10 to finish up some other items that we need to get done. And that'll be at the board office that night, because there won't be a whole lot, because our levy rates, you guys know how that is, there's not a whole lot to report on that, but we still have to do that by statutory code on, West Virginia State Code of Policy to make sure we do our due diligence with that.
6 p.m., 19th of April at the board office. We'll call that meeting back to order, and we'll take care of the item that we put in recess. Anything else, Superintendent?
The only other thing I have is just for you guys, for future references, on May 12th, we have a board meeting. I'm looking at asking you guys if we could move that. That night, a few people in the central office and myself have been invited to the June Harless Center and at the Marshall University there. And that evening, we'll be sitting with dignitaries and be honored on the side by working with June Harless. That night, there'll be some inductees to the Hall of Fame. We're not one of them, but at least we get to be part of it with Kathy Justice. She'll be inducted. Dolly Parton will also be inducted because of her books that she supports with her foundation. And then we have Dr. Stan and Barb Maynard, who have worked tirelessly at June Harless, and they retired. They moved to North Carolina to be closer to their family, but they will come back, and we've been working with Dr. Maynard and Maynard and the June Harless team to help out with STEM initiatives here in this county. And our teachers have given us a lot of kudos to the program on a Saturday to learn about all the different techniques with STEM initiative. If you need to, just ask any teacher that's been part of the June Harless training, and they'll tell you, yeah, we do get paid to come in on Saturdays, but we learn an awful lot about how to make our classrooms more interactive with STEM. So the other one is the June 23rd. If you can move that due to the West Virginia Association State Conference for Superintendents. So the 12th and 23rd, May 12th, June 23rd. You might want to look at that to see if we could move that other meeting on another date.
I would ask then that on our next regular meeting, which is April what?
Not the 19th, we'd be discussing on the 28th, is that what you're asking?
April 28th,
Yeah.
yes. Would you have an item on there for that so that we can act upon that? And we'll have discussion, members, if that's okay with you, and we'll figure out when we can move that. Maybe there's 2 meetings too, so that they can attend that. Is that all right with everyone? Okay, so if you'll make that an actionable agenda item under new business, we'll handle that at the June 28th meeting. Is that it on your report?
Yes.
Any members have any items that you would like to see on the next agenda? If so, feel free to bring them up. If not, you may contact me or the superintendent, have them added on. Superintendent Warville, I'll be working with you to develop the next agenda. Any other points or questions by any members? If not, then Vice President McBride, you're on.
Okay, I make a motion we adjourn, time 7:51.
This meeting stands adjourned. Thank you for coming.